Hi there, my name is Amanda Gant. Welcome. If you're watching this message, this means you may have some interest in pre-planning, and I want to answer some of the top questions and explain the functionality and the way it works when you pre-plan. It's a lot different than what most people think. Also, I'd like to go over some common concerns, questions, some benefits you may be receiving as a spouse of someone who may be passed away. We'll go over some frequently asked questions, as well as some of the most common misconceptions that people have when they're pre-planning. So let's get into it. So my two roles here at the funeral home are to help families pre-plan, explain the benefits, explain the investment that they're looking at for their final expense plan. My second role here is unique role. It's called continued care. And what I offer to families is a free service to help out the loved ones of the surviving spouse that had passed away or a family member. I've noticed that it seems that most people pre-plan, but then they have no assistance after the fact. So what I do is sit down with families and we contact agencies and report the passing of a loved one so they can get claim forms going so that they know what benefits they should do, what order they should contact agencies in, and what that looks like. So that is a free service that is very unique to Vistoso Funeral Home. Let's first talk about pre-planning, what that looks like, the functionality of it. I'll say the number one reason why people choose to pre-plan is so that their families don't have to handle it at the time of. They don't want their families to have to come in during a difficult time, sit down, plan everything out, pay for it, and worry about that. They want to have things set aside, and that's probably why you're watching this video. You want your family to make one phone call and make it seamless, streamlined, and simple. It's also a great gift you're giving your family by pre-planning. So with that in mind, the number one reason people contact me is because they want to have this taken care of so their family doesn't have to deal with it. The second thing that people don't really realize when they're pre-planning is that you're getting today's cost versus an inflated cost. And what I mean by that is today's cost is going to be very different than tomorrow's, and also than a year from now, than 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And unfortunately, just like everything else in life, the costs are going to go up. I had a 40-year-old recently who came in. Her family thought she was crazy, and she pre-planned her whole funeral and was doing a burial. And I told her it was the wisest decision she ever made, because if she lives that long life that's expected, she is getting today's cost versus the cost when she's 80 and 40 years from now for that casket, for that burial, for everything she picked out. So you're getting today's cost versus an inflated cost. I want to explain how that functions so you can get a visual on what that actually looks like. So when you pre-plan, you are not writing a check to Vistoso Funeral Home, and the reason why is for your protection as a consumer. We are unable to hold on to money longer than 30 days. And that reason is what if something were to happen to our funeral home? Let's say we went bankrupt or unfortunately burned to the ground or weren't here in the next year or two. Your money would be gone and it wouldn't be protected. Or another common case that happens is maybe you decide you don't want to live in Arizona anymore. You don't live in Oro Valley, Arizona, or any part of Arizona. You now live in Colorado. That's a problem if you pay us directly. So the reason why we can't take money is for your protection as a consumer. We have to, by law, use a third party. That third party is an insurance company specifically for burials and cremations. Now, we use Great Western Insurance Company, Wellaby, their AAA plus company, and I want to go over how your money will be safe there and how it functions when it's in this third party. The number one thing that you want to realize is when it's in this third party by law, it allows you as a consumer to always have access to the funds. Meaning if we're no longer here in business in Oro Valley, Arizona, you can use it at another funeral home here in town. Or let's say you do move to Colorado. You can also transfer the policy over to another city or state within the US and still have access to your pre-planned funeral arrangements. So it allows for that portability, which is the number one thing. I think the misconception of people not wanting to pre-plan is because they don't know where they're going to end up. And this avoids any of that kind of concern and can set you at ease that it's transferable. The second thing is that these policies through Great Western Insurance Company is going to be regulated just like banks and credit unions. So it's federally regulated. So your money will be safe there. The third thing, they offer payment options. You have a 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, or 10-year payment option. And that is based on your age. So depending on your age will determine the length of payment options and qualify for. The fourth benefit, and this one is really important, is as we age, and I'm not sure if you know anyone who's been in long-term care or experienced that, but we are living longer, and usually as we age, we need a higher level of care. With that being said, most people don't have long-term care insurance. It's extremely expensive. If you have it, great. But most families do not. And so what happens is long-term care can cost anywhere from $8,000 to $20,000 a month. And you could run through your savings accounts and your funds very quickly if you live a long time. If you're living years in a long-term care facility, that money is going to be used fairly quickly. It happens to families as they end up winding down and running out of money to pay. They go to the state and they ask the state for assistance and say, hey, I can no longer pay for my long-term care. Can you please help me? And the state of Arizona says, sure, we'll help you, but you have to do what's called Medicaid spend down. Some of you may have heard of this before. Medicaid spend down is where you need to spend down all of your assets to $2,000. It's all you can have to your name. This means house. This means life insurance policies that you may have had from when you were younger. This includes any money in savings and credit, any kind of funds that you have access to that have been a growing asset. Medicaid will make you spend it down in the state of Arizona. Once you do that and spend it down to $2,000, the state says, we will gladly help you. They will continue to pay for your long-term care. The reason why I bring this up is because these plans are specific to burial and cremations, and it is exempt from Medicaid spend down. And Medicaid actually will send families out to spend down money at funeral homes because they want you to have this policy. So this differs from a traditional life insurance policy in the sense of it is exempt from Medicaid spend down, which allows you to keep the policy, which means it will always be there. And I am going to go over how this policy is a growing asset and you still get to keep it if you ever ended up in that situation. So let's go over how the plan functions. Let's say your total plan that we came up with today was $5,000. Now we know, just as I said earlier, that same $5,000 for everything you chose won't be that price in a year from now. It won't be that price in 3 years, and it definitely won't be that price in 5 years. The price is going to hike up. And so that same $5,000 in 10, 15, 20 years could be $20,000. So what Great Western does is every year they are adding 2 to 4% interest because they want to keep up with that inflation cost. So every year they're adding that interest, which is raising your total value of your funeral plan. If it does cost $10,000 when you pass away and you paid $5,000, hopefully by the time that you pass away, your plan grew to that $10,000. Now that is a pretty ideal situation. So what happens if it doesn't? Let's say you pay the $5,000 today, and when you pass away, that same plan you picked is $10,000. You paid $5,000. When you pass, your plan only grew to $9,800. Uh-oh, we're short. We're short $200. Where do you think that $200 would come from? I'll give you a chance to answer. No, it doesn't come from you or the family or the estate. It actually comes from us, the funeral home. We recognize that you paid in advance and we guaranteed those costs, and therefore we will write off any loss. So if the plan cost $10,000 at the time and your pre-plan only came to $9,800, you're short that $200, we are going to write that off. We are not going to ask your family for any additional fees, any additional funds. We write it off as payment in full. Now, on the other hand, there's another situation that could occur. Let's say it's $10,000 when you pass away for everything you picked, but your plan grew to $10,200. Now you have a $200 surplus. $200. Where do you think that surplus money goes? It's not going to go to the funeral home. We don't get to charge you anything more than today's current price. It's also not going to go back to the insurance company. So your family is going to get an additional death benefit of $200 or whatever that surplus happens to be in your particular situation. So as you can see, it's a win-win. If your plan doesn't grow to the amount we expect it to, the funeral home being me, we will write that off for you. And if there's a surplus, the money goes back to your family as an additional death benefit. So there's no way that you can lose when you pre-plan. That's the major functionality. So when you're writing a check for pre-planning, you're not writing a check to Vistoso Funeral Home, you're writing a check to Great Western Wellaby Insurance Company. Okay, another question that I get is, what happens if I'm not here? What happens if I'm away? What happens if I'm on a road trip? Or what happens if I'm in another city or state and I'm visiting family? Well, we don't know when or where you're going to pass away. And for that reason, we always like to include, it's called away from home coverage. What the away from home coverage will do is one of two things. First, when you pass away, they're going to ask your surviving family, would you like us to ship the body back to the funeral home and bring you back into their care? So they will pay for airfare, funeral cost of transportation, airfare, casket to get you back into our care so we can do the services that you have planned for. The other thing that they may ask is, would you like us just to do a cremation instead of shipping the body back? Now, if you choose to do a cremation instead of shipping the body back, what this company will do, the away from home kicks in, they will pay for the cremation wherever you pass away, and they will send the cremains wherever your family advises them. This is where it gets really interesting. Let's say that you pay for a cremation with us, and you go and you have our away from home coverage as well, and you go to California, and heaven forbid you pass away. And your family is like, well, it doesn't make sense to ship a body all the way back. Just please do the cremation. So if you have this away from home coverage and they do the cremation, the away from home covered your cremation. And what that means is the money you paid us in advance through Great Western, all of that money goes back to your family as an additional death benefit. So we can't charge you, being the funeral home, for a service that we didn't do. You passed away from home, you had a cremation away from home, we can't charge you our cremation fee. So essentially, you're getting a cremation paid for and cremains sent to your family with this away from home coverage. The second question I get asked is, how much does it cost? Just like everything else, costs are subject to change, but as I'm recording this video, the away from home coverage is $499 per person. It's a one-time payment, and the only restriction on the plan is that you must be more than 75 miles away from your primary residence. So here in Oro Valley, that is from here to Phoenix, Arizona, to just give you logistics of 75 miles. In fact, that's more than 75 miles away. So if you go to the White Mountains, if you travel across town, 75 miles is when it kicks in. This is worldwide coverage. You could be in Alaska, you could be on a cruise ship, you could be in Africa. The coverage is going to cover you airfare or a cremation, shipping your body back into our care, or a cremation from anywhere in the world. So it's a no-brainer to me to have this coverage, and I actually do have it. Now, what you're going to get with the away from home coverage, they're going to give you luggage tags for your bags so you have it when you're traveling through the airport. They're going to give you an ID card similar to a medical card that you carry in your wallet. And basically, it's the same concept. One phone call and everything is taken care of. And in this case, if you were being cremated, you're essentially getting a cremation for $500. The rest of the money that you pre-planned with us is going to go back to your family because we can't charge you for a service we didn't do. So hopefully that answers your questions on what happens if I'm not here. They've done a lot of surveys on how people will pay funeral cost. And amongst all of these surveys they've done for years and years, the top 5 answers are these, and I'm going to go through them. Number 1, they say the government will help with their funeral cost. And that actually is a true statement. The first person who passes is eligible to receive a one-time lump sum death benefit from the state of $255. So yes, you will have assistance from the government. Unfortunately, it is not a lot, but you do have to request that payment to be made, and that is something I hope families do during the continued care that we spoke about earlier. So yes, the government will pay $255. They're only going to pay it out one time, the first surviving spouse, and that's the only person that is entitled to the $255. Now, if you're a veteran, you do have some additional benefits that are important to know. So as a veteran, you have the ability to be interned at any VA cemetery. Your spouse also has the ability to be interned as well. So here we have the Marana VA Cemetery, but there's also national cemeteries as well. So you can go and be interned at any of these that you choose. We'll just talk about the Marana Veterans Cemetery here in Arizona because this is the most common one we work with. So with a VA, you're entitled to a free plot or a niche. You're also going to be entitled to a free marker or headstone. Your wife or spouse's name can be on there as well. That's included. You will have honors. Your family will receive a flag, as well as letters from the president's office thanking you for your service. Now, a lot of times families say, well, it depends who's president if we want letters. And that's understandable. The other thing that I want to mention that is fairly new is the VA has also decided to give veterans, if they decide not to be interned at a VA cemetery, a free urn. And it's a beautiful urn. So that is an option as well. I just want to lay everything out there so you have all the information. Now here at Marana, your opening and closing is covered as a veteran. The only charge that would be assessed to a spouse is their opening and closing, and that currently is $780. So your spouse will have everything included except for the opening and closing, which would be a $780 charge at the Marana VA Cemetery currently. So veterans, those are some of the benefits you can look forward to. Now, if you're a retired vet, there are some additional benefits, and it's based on the amount of years and time that you put in. But basically, you have to pay all your funeral costs up front, and then sometimes the VA will supplement any payment you made. You have to submit receipts, and they will pay a portion of your funeral or cremation costs. Third item on the survey was savings. We'll use savings and have our family pay for it when we pass. Now, savings is great to have, but unfortunately, we don't know if it's going to be there at the time of passing. Let's say you do end up in a situation where you need a higher level of care and need long-term care, and you have to pay $8,000 to $10,000 or more a month. You could run out of your savings fairly quickly. So as great as savings is, it's not guaranteed to be there at the time of need. Number 4 would be a life insurance policy. And we did talk about that if you saw that in the video, talking about how life insurance policies aren't always available either. So when you have a life insurance policy, that is a growing asset. Typically, people don't have life insurance policies as we get older. We own our homes, we don't need it. But if we do have it, and we do end up in a situation where there's long-term care, those assets could be drained. Medicaid could say, hey, you have to spend down this life insurance policy. It's an asset. Or let's say you are able to keep it and you don't run into a situation like Medicaid and you are able to keep it. Unfortunately, it takes about 6 to 8 weeks for those funds to be released. Any insurance company is going to need a death certificate and you have to fill out claim forms. So in order for this process to be done, it's usually fairly slow and the funeral home needs to be paid at the time of. So as good as life insurance is, it's not always readily available at the time of need. Last but not least, the fifth thing that people said on the survey of how they're going to pay for their pre-planning is with a pre-planned policy. The best way, which is number 5, is to pre-plan with a pre-planned policy through the funeral home. That way your money is safe, your money is protected, it's transferable, and it will always be there when you need it. The funeral home gets paid immediately. Also, one of the questions I want to address is some people say, well, how are you different from some of the big corporations like Neptune? So we differ from Neptune because we are not a corporation. We are a family-owned funeral home. We are local, and everything here is on site. That's important. So our cremations are done here on site. Our crematory is here. Our refrigeration is here. You're going to have one of our staff members come and pick you up and bring you into our care. When you're dealing with a corporation, you never know where you're going to be. They work with several different funeral homes, and whoever's available will be able to take you in, but you don't know where that will be in advance. Also, Neptune's costs are extremely expensive. Currently, double the cost of our direct cremation. If cost is a concern, definitely save money and shop local. And not only that, have a different quality of care during the most difficult time in your life. So that's how we differ for some of these corporate entities. Death certificates. So currently right now, the state of Arizona, everyone is going to get a free death certificate. If you're a veteran, you're going to get an additional death certificate from the VA. So you may have 2 if you're a veteran already for free. They are currently $20 each. We usually recommend around 5 death certificates. You can always order them though within the first year through us. We can go down to the health department, pick them up for you, and bring them back into our office so that you can pick them up within that first year. So if you need more, you can always order more. But we do recommend putting on the plan at least 5 death certificates depending on your situation. Urns. Yes, you can bring your own urn in. We do charge a filling fee to fill your own urn if you bring your own. We have several different urns. We also scatter cremains. Scattering is actually illegal, and we are able to scatter at Catalina State Park in Mount Lemmon. So this is also an additional service that we offer to families. So we will scatter for you if you'd like us to at Mount Lemmon or Catalina State Park. There have been some other requests, and depending on the location, we are open to hearing your request and trying to accommodate that for you as well. I hope I answered most of your questions and went over all of the benefits of pre-planning for you. But let's sit down and let's discuss what your tailored needs are going to be for your funeral plan so I can give you exact costs on what you'd be looking at today. If you have any additional questions, feel free to reach out and contact me. You can contact me via email, which is maybe how you received this message, or you can call me directly on my cell phone, which is 520-440-7659. Again, my name is Amanda, and you can call or text on that number. I look forward to hearing from you.